Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Boss podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Dane, and today Ramona Crabtree-Falkner is joining me. Ramona is a seasoned holistic wellness professional, transformational empowerment coach, and the founder of Authentic Life Journey. With over 2 decades of experience guiding individuals through burnout, overwhelm, and self-doubt, Ramona helps professional women reconnect with their inner truth and live with authenticity, purpose, and ease. Her work is born from her own journey. Having once lived in the constant hustle of perfectionism and overgiving, she reached a breaking point that became a catalyst for deep healing and transformation. Through her own awakening, she discovered that true empowerment comes from within and that slowing down to listen to the soul's wisdom opens the door to lasting joy and fulfillment. Ramona, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so glad you're here.
Hey, Jennifer, thank you so much for having me.
Yay! I love that last little bit of your bio, and I want to jump in at that point with that slowing down to listen to your soul's wisdom.
Mhm.
Wow. Like, what a lesson to have learned in your own life.
Yeah, yeah. Well, being in the field of study that I'm in, you would think, oh, they've got it all worked out. Like they're able to do the things, right? And, spending 20 years in the health and wellness industry has has taught me a lot. I've worked for myself the entire time, and I have gone through multiple layers of that that experience of having to slow down and reevaluate. And I think in the beginning, maybe even the first 10 years, I didn't give it any attention. I just pushed and pushed and hustled because that was the programming, right?
Right.
And then when I shifted into applying what I was learning to give to others, that's when the magic really started to happen. And when I really started stepping closer to my authentic self. And so that that original transition happened 9 years ago when I shifted from my original company name to Authentic Life Journey. Hmm.
Very cool. Yeah, it's so interesting how I've observed in conversations with people and also through my own life that often the work that I'm supporting others in is work that I really need to be doing on a deeper level for myself
Yeah.
continuously. Whether it's content creation, right? Like running a six-figure social media management agency, or doing the reflection on the core values and implementing them into my life and making them feel more seen. That's the work I do. um there's always like a need for me to go deeper into that for myself, but it's so often neglected,
Hmm.
and that's not good. That's not what we're supposed to
Yeah.
be doing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's why recently I've shifted my business model completely. So even where I was 9 years ago, um, in the last year, I had to make a huge downshift for myself to just like you want to talk about having to take a pause. I took a year.
Yeah.
I took a year and really sat back and said, okay, what are you doing? Like, is this where you're supposed to be anymore? And are you going to be able to continue to run a business, or do you need to completely shift out? And that that questioning, that introspection, it required me to really sit still for this last year. And then coming into 2025, it was like, okay, I know where I'm going. I know what I want to do. Because last year was definitely like everything that needed to explode exploded. and, and, and I was doing all the work. There was just another layer that needed to be brought in.
Yeah. I think oftentimes there are elements of slowing down to speed up in our business. Um,
Mhm.
but if we ignore them, right? If we ignore the slow down, pull back a little bit to figure things out and balance things again, we'll end up kind of where you were, where it takes us a whole year to figure out the
Mhm.
path forward.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, nobody wants to get there. I know you didn't want to get there, but I do want to give
Hmm.
you flowers, give you your flowers for acknowledging that that's what was needed and required
Yeah.
for you to be successful and to continue to show up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's been an interesting reintegration back into uh, visibility, right? I think that the path that I was on that ultimately hit this level of burnout that I've never experienced before. and I've experienced burnout, which is, obviously my messaging is about working with women that are experiencing that. Your message, right?
Yeah.
So for me, even though I'd experienced smaller moments of that burnout, it wasn't until this last year that I was like, wow, like this is a whole nother level. And it became the the message of what it is that I needed to really focus my attention on. So that time, if I'm not willing to do that, if I'm not willing to take that time, if I'm not willing to quiet myself and turn inward, then what business do I have guiding anyone else to do that?
Right. Yeah. There has to be a willingness to
Mm-hmm.
integrate your own practices. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Which I think is
yeah.
so key in
So yeah.
continuing to show up, right? Like that willingness and
Mm-hmm.
that ability to recognize where you have to integrate your own practices and the things that you, right? Like we're not just leading by do what I say, right? It's lead by
Yeah,
example.
yeah,
That allows us to continuously show up on a daily basis as the best
yeah,
version of ourselves.
yeah, yeah. It's the walk your talk, right?
Yeah.
Like if this is what I'm suggesting for someone else to do, I have to do it for myself. And so that journey of slowing down, that journey of really evaluating what was in alignment, what was out of alignment, and what was my voice in that moment. And I think the tactics that I was putting in place before I hit that level of burnout were inauthentic, and that to me is that is so against my truth
Yeah.
that when I finally figured out that that's what was happening, that I was just not able to fit myself inside of someone else's square peg for
Yeah.
for my round self, right? I had to let go, and I let go in a way that financially was hard because I was choosing to walk away from the support that I was getting and still having to pay that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, when I really sat back and looked at it, I was like, is this worth my peace?
Right. And I think that's a question, especially as women entrepreneurs, we have to ask ourselves regularly,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
Yeah.
is maintaining this client, is maintaining this contract, is maintaining this mentor or coach relationship worth the cost of your peace? Now, there is
Mm-hmm.
something to be said for pushing past hard, right? Because sometimes we're like, oh no, it's my peace, but it's really like you're just uncomfortable, right? And I know you because we had met during that transitional season for you. You had pushed well past hard and into creating something that was not yours. It was not, it
Mm-hmm.
didn't have elements, like it was missing the core elements of you. And um I've been there. I've done the same thing where it's like, okay, this is the coach. I've invested so much money. I just have to do what they say because there was a reason I signed up with them. And sometimes I think we get pressured into things, right? If you're a bit of a people pleaser, it's like, okay, I'll find the money. Because you think it's the golden ticket that's going to solve everything, but what you haven't done is
Yeah.
the inner work to actually figure out what best serves you and what in your business isn't already not working. Because hiring a coach to fix the core of your business because you're not in alignment with what you should be creating is
Mm-hmm.
never going to actually make you more money, right? A coach around sales or a coach around systems or strategy or content is never going to fix the core if it's broken. You
Mm-hmm.
can't out coach a flawed philosophy.
Yeah.
But you
Well,
can
yeah,
coach
yeah,
yourself into burnout.
right, exactly, and I think that underneath the noise, I knew who I was speaking to and who I wanted to speak to. I wasn't feeling guided to really get closer to it. Like it just felt
Mm,
like it was like let's let's not let's not worry so much about this piece. Let's focus on this piece, which was really inauthentic for me. Um, and so, with my company being Authentic Life Journey, like authenticity is so freaking important to me.
right. And when you're out of alignment with your own story, right, without your own values, everything is going to be awful. It just
Mm-hmm.
is. Yeah. And that's not a fun place to be. It's not a fun place to
No,
be.
So with all of that being said, I have had some moments over the last so I came into 2025. I had several things that happened last year, even outside of that situation, that was just like it was literally like I was a snake shedding skin every other week.
Right.
And it I was raw.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I'm not releasing the skin in a way that feels like, okay, I'm just slithering out into the
It's
next,
being
beautiful
sandpapered
layer.
off. Yeah. It's
It's just
being
like
sandpapered
pushing things
off.
off of you so you can move forward, girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's important to recognize is that sometimes these lessons come at us in such a way that it feels like it's aggressive, but um, it's really just what it's like you needed to have that big of a message come through in order
Mhm.
to be able to step fully into your purpose. And that is very much so what I feel like happened for me is it was just like I was kind of playing around with so many different ideas that when I finally got down to the core of it, and I had a very dear friend of mine that was basically held my hand last year. She would just come into meetings and be like, all right, let me ask you questions. And she would just ask me, she would just drill in, drill in, drill in, drill in until we got to the core. And once we got to the core, then I was like, oh, okay. And my processing is very specific. Like somebody can say something to me 15 times, but until I feel it, until it's
Yeah.
in my heart and I can feel it at the core of my soul, it's not going to make sense. Like it doesn't compute.
Yeah. Well,
So we
that's
did a
the
lot
whole
of those.
right. Well, that's the whole concept of people talking at you or like a message
Hmm.
coming at you versus for you or to you. I've
Yeah.
experienced a couple of those myself.
Yeah. Yeah. But she was really good at just giving me the space to be like, I don't know about that, and then I come back 2 weeks later and I'm like, okay, I think I see what you're saying.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it was that space of being able to peel back. And for me, it had a lot to do with imposter syndrome, uh, because I have been working in a one-to-one industry, and so to think that I was equipped to guide professional women was something that I was struggling with for some reason. And I say it that way for a very specific reason because there was no reason at all for me to have
Mhm.
that because who was knocking on my door? Those women.
Right.
Like my questioning of myself was absolutely 100% on me
Mhm.
and dealing with my own insecurities and devaluing. And so what I feel like last year was this opportunity to say, are you going to continue to devalue yourself or are you going to step into your greatness?
Right. Yeah. And what a gift, right? Like it's
Hmm.
not a fun journey, right? It's not a fun process, but you now with the value of hindsight are able to look at that and say,
Yeah.
"Wow." Like
Yeah.
I had checked in on you a couple times in the last year and you're like, I'm figuring it out. I'm still here. I'm just figuring it out." And I think you earned a lot of respect for me, and I mean I respect everyone, but like there's levels to be earned, right? Like for because I watched you go through like this raw, right, the sandpapered raw kind of like ah moment of some things, and then watched the step back, and and I checked in and you're like, I'm still figuring it out, I'm not ready, but when I'm ready I'll come back, right? And you came back so strong and so powerful and like woo rocket into the earth's atmosphere. And you're experiencing some really incredible success because you took the time to get the foundation and to
Hmm.
get in alignment and get in that zone of authenticity, and so much magic springs out of that, right? Like that
Hmm.
is where the universe is like, all right, we're ready to go,
Yeah.
and really rewards the effort.
Yeah. And I really believe in that that balancing act, right? And so as professionals, as women, as human beings, if I just kind of give it to everyone in the world because it really is for all of us. But um, there is so much magic in pausing, in allowing yourself to be in that yin state. And so especially as business owners, I think it's really easy to get so stuck in the yang of it all, like the action oriented and the movement. And what I think that I gained out of this time more than anything else was that, and I had been doing a lot of divine feminine work for the past 5 years. So it's not lost on me that this was what I needed. But I think that concept of action and rest, the action and rest, and it's something that I've always talked about as a yoga teacher, is, that balancing act, that remembering that we're both divine feminine, divine masculine. I for me, it is so important to make sure that I'm bringing that balance in all the time now after this pause. Like, even now that things are kind of rolling, and I'm telling you, I'm in a flow right now, and it feels very aligned and authentic, and there's a lot of magical things that are happening right now, and I can see. So I used to say this. I said, I feel like I'm pushing a boulder up a hill, and I was. And then I hit this point at the beginning of this year where I'm like, okay, the boulder is sitting at the very top of the hill and I can't see past it. Like,
Right.
what is on the other side of that? And then I made a decision and aligned with some support that helped me move that boulder. And right now, like, I'm standing at the top of the hill and I can see all of the abundance that is just on its way to me.
Yeah.
And I am doing the tactile things that are necessary for me to make the connections and be in the places that I want to be. And everything is feeling like, and I had gotten a reading back in November that said that the first part of my year was going to be all about laying this foundation and then beginning to move forward. And then right around June, which is my birth date, so that for me is my new year, like, everything's just gonna fly. And so every single thing that I'm doing right now, the way that things are set up, it is showing that is on path. Like, I'm on time right now.
Yeah. Well, and there's something to be said for being on time, right? Like, being present, experiencing it as it comes, and honoring your own path, and really just being like, I'm here, let's go. Yeah. That's where magic
Yeah, and
happens.
I'm yes, absolutely. And so my word for this year was visibility. And that's authentic visibility. That's not just, okay, let me start a group and drive people in there, whether or not they are 100% aligned or not. It is, I'm going to show up as me, and I'm going to show up everywhere that I can as me. And I'm going to trust that as those things are happening, that the right collaborations, the right connections, the right leads are coming to me. And once that happens, it's just abundance. It's just abundance. And that is the word that I keep hearing when I'm quiet and I'm meditating and I'm evaluating, where am I putting my energy this week, right? How am I using my purpose and my passion and my gift this week? And a lot of that comes back to networking and connecting with other business owners, which is not something I think I've done a lot of in the past. So this is kind of new for me. But a lot of it is just showing up as me and really paying attention to the energy of the conversation. So if I'm in the conversation and I'm not getting that reciprocal, give and take of energy from the person on the other side of the table, then it's a no. And I'm pretty much figuring that out, like, within the first 5 to 10 minutes.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean that I can't still have a relationship with that person. I just know that we're not in alignment in that way. And so I don't need to put any more focus in that direction.
Yeah. I call that the vibe check, right? Like, I'm kind of the same way. Within the first 5 or so minutes of a conversation with someone, I know exactly what place they fall, like what category they fall into as far as time and energy investment, whether it's a relationship that I really want to pursue because I think they're amazing and there's collaboration opportunities, or I think there's potential for us, like, to work together in some capacity, either me with them or them with me. There's some hierarchy of where I'm going to put my time and energy in building relationships. It's rare for me to be like, nope, don't want anything to do with this person, but it does happen. And the more people you talk to, the more likely it's going to happen, right? But there are just some people, every once in a while, it's rare, but every once in a while, I'm just like, this is not my person in any capacity. There's usually something that I can offer in some way, or like a collaboration or like referral partner. Like I'll take notes and I'm happy to refer you to people to you. Every once in a while, there's like a no, I don't want this person in my world, which is such a weird feeling for me because I'm very much like a Leo, people-y, right? Like outgoing, everyone's my friend kind of girl. But honoring that and recognizing that will save you so much heartache. So much
For
heartache.
sure.
Yeah. So when you're doing that kind of like vibe check, right? Like what does that empower you to do?
Well, it empowers me to make sure that I'm overextending. So a lot of burnout comes from overextending ourselves, whether it's saying yes or it's a no, whether it is um, taking on a project that is really requiring more than you have the ability to give to. Um, and I also think that it's about really aligning to my core values and needs and evaluating if that person is matching the same frequency that I'm offering. For years I have led retreats, and so I'm being really intentional because I have a lot of people that are coming to me and saying, "Oh, I would really love to talk with you about leading retreats and how that might, how we could do something together." And then I'm like, "Okay, have you led a retreat before? Do you have an audience to speak to?" Like, these are the things that I want to know because I'm not going to carry the weight. I
Yeah.
don't have the space or the time to do that. And so for me, in coming into collaborations, I want to make sure that there is equality in it. And so a lot of the conversations that I'm seeking out and having right now are about collaborations because it's about me joining someone else's space to bring something that they don't already have in their space to their community.
Yeah.
Because that felt more authentic to have more of a collaborative, real connection with a company or with a person. And then they say, "Yeah, I want you to come in and share with my audience because what I'm sharing is something that they are not sharing." Like I have this one collaboration where she wants to support everybody. So she's like, "I'm going to put you in front of everyone that I know because I think that everyone needs everything." And I
Right.
love that too. Like it's really about finding those connections that speak my language. And so how does that work as far as me returning the energy? Because I think that's one of the things that I came to realize is for 20 years I was holding the space. I was the one that was bringing in the teachers and the practitioners, and I was doing all the work to support them. What I gained out of last year is I need to be held a little bit. I
Right.
need to be supported a little bit. And so by allowing myself to come into other people's spaces and let them hold me a little bit, that reciprocation of energy is not just met in, okay, I'm going to come and offer this thing. It's how can we have long-term collaboration? How can I honor you if someone out of your group decides that I'm the person they need to work with? And so I'm coming up with ways to do that feel, in my opinion, feel really good to not just me, but also the person that is entrusting their community to me.
Yeah. There's something to be said for collaborations where it meets your strength meets their weakness and their weakness
Hmm.
needs your strength, right?
Yeah,
Where there's that like synergy of give and flow. And
yeah,
those are opportunities and relationships that I've always prioritized in
hmm,
my life, not because like, oh, I want what you have to offer, but because I know what you have to offer is very valuable to me, and I know
yeah,
that you feel the same about what I'm bringing to the table. And that's
yeah,
where like the most beautiful collaborations have happened for me, the most beautiful long-term like business relationships and support systems have really like taken a
hmm,
foundation of I have something that you don't and you need,
yeah,
and you have something that I don't and I need. And we're going to mutually beneficially, you know, pursue each other's success through our own
hmm,
strengths.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and it's magical. It's really magical.
yeah. Yeah. And that's not to say that I won't eventually have, another group where people are in my world and I'm guiding them. I just think that after the experiences I had over the last couple of years, I feel like right now I just need to focus on making those connections that feel authentic to me and then trusting in that process. And so even though it was real messy for me what I experienced before, I have a lot of things that are happening within my business that I would not be capable of doing had I not gone through some of the educational pieces. So I'm finding a little bit of gratitude for the past, even though I'm still working on some of the pain points.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think that there's going to come a day where that pain's gone. Like I've healed it, and I've been able to let go and let go of the frustrations that I had. And a lot of that had nothing to do with that human being. It had more to do with the lessons I needed to learn. And
Yeah.
so I acknowledge that. That doesn't mean that in the moment though that we don't feel big feels, and
Right.
as a highly empathetic person and an empath in general, I feel everything. And so that inauthenticity for me was it broke me.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I know that I can't do that again.
Yeah. Well, and you also you've learned the lesson, right? So like the
Mm-hmm.
warning signs you're going to notice so much faster.
Yeah.
When you are operating from a place of your own authenticity, you are less likely
Mm-hmm.
to be pulled astray. So like the lessons you learned in that moment and the work you've done over the last year have really set you up to avoid repeating that
Yeah.
lesson. Because you
Right.
learned it, you integrated it, you took it in and you absorbed it. If you hadn't, if
Mm-hmm.
you had just kind of like blown past it and been like, I'm just going to pause for like a week, figure this out, and then just like chug through,
Yeah.
chances are it would have happened
Yeah.
again.
But that vibe check you're talking about, I think that that's really like at the forefront for me. Like
Hmm.
I'm not going down any road that felt anything like that felt because it was made out of urgency. And so I think that, kind of circling back around to the concept of slowing down and pausing, um, had I been applying that, I don't know that I would have ended up in those scenarios. However, I did.
Right.
So the lesson is slow down, observe, really evaluate, and just because I'm in a conversation that I'm like, yeah, this is not really aligned right now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't some seedling in there that is going to, begin to manifest at some point. I mean, I had a conversation yesterday where it's somebody that's brand new. They're starting out their holistic wellness business, whereas I've been in mine for 20 years. And so I was just like, I'm not really sure that this is exactly the collaboration that I'm looking for. So, but we had some conversation that I was like, oh, but you have that skill and I have this skill, and let me sit with that for a little bit and see how that might be something that we could share with one another. And so it's being observant of even the small messengers, even if they're not the forefront. If there's something small that's being said there, then it's like, okay, maybe this is the reason we're getting connected, and it's not this reason over here, which was the original, motivation for the call.
Yeah. Yeah. It's listening for the nuances, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, how have you like we've talked about integration, we've talked about the lesson you've learned, but like what has from the last year is showing up in how you operate on a daily basis? Like what are you doing every single day to take the lesson, the journey, the momentum, the magic that's happening now? Like what is happening on a daily basis that's allowing you to honor and respect the journey that you've been on and continue forward with the momentum?
So I think the biggest thing is that witness perspective is really evaluating, okay, because it's very easy to get overwhelmed. So for me, I have notebooks full. I have like, okay, these are and so each week at the top of the week I'll go back to that list, and if anything's crossed out, then I'll remake the list. So then that way it's like, okay, take the things off, because if I keep looking at this list that has scratch marks through it of this is done, it's hard for me to see what really needs to be given attention. So then I'll go back in, I'll make another list for the week, because I believe that everything gets done exactly when it needs to be. So even if it's on the list and it doesn't get done that week, doesn't mean that I failed. It means that that didn't need my attention yet.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
just, I want to make sure that I remember all the areas that need my attention, and then they're given the attention at the appropriate time. And so that will be my step for today after this call, is I will sit down, I will take the list, and I will go to the next page, and I'll write out, okay, these are the things that are still on the list that need to be done. And then I will add, is there anything more that I need to do this week?
Yeah.
And so it just makes it so that I'm taking I'm approaching things with gentleness, versus I have to get all of this done this week, because if I don't get this done, then I'm a failure.
Right. That's a very good perspective to not have, right? Like to approach it with gentleness. I've heard a couple versions of that. Bonnie, who's been on the podcast, uses sticky notes, right? And when she's accomplished something, sticky note gets removed, crumpled up, and it's gone. I use daily lists because there's things that evolve and flow on a daily basis, but I do something very similar. Is I rewrite the list every single day. And anything that's been completed is gone, right? So that it's a fresh list of what needs to be in my brain and accomplished, so that I can be not accomplishing the list does not make me successful. What the list does is gives me the path, and I write it sequentially. I don't always follow it, but I write it sequentially, because if I get distracted or pulled off, I'll be like, what was I doing? And I can look at my list and know that this is the next thing, right? Like this is where the scratch off stops. But it allows me to look at my day and say, okay, yes, this is probably more than I can accomplish, but man, am I going to feel good if I can potentially work through like 80% of it. Because I've done a lot of work about reframing productivity into I'm purposeful, right? If I'm showing up in my purpose. So on a day like today, I have like 4 or 5 calls today. My purpose is showing up in recording this episode with you, in taking care of my team, in having the conversations that are scheduled for the rest of my day. That's my purpose. And if I can fit in crossing off a few things in the gaps in between calls, amazing. But my purpose is to show up as the best version of myself, be present, be, grounded in the moments, and be able to support in the different conversations that I'm here to have. And reframing for me, productivity versus purposefulness, released me from this like childhood trauma of like never getting enough done or being good enough at the thing I was doing, which was kind of an accidental healing for me. But it's something that's really, really been influential is writing that daily list. It grounds me. It tells me what I need to focus on. But allowing for the expectations of what else my day contains was a big learning, because I used to just keep rewriting the whole list and adding to the bottom and expecting that I was going to move through enough when I had 8 calls and I was going to be on, Zoom for 7.5 hours. When am I supposed to do the 82 things on the list? That's not realistic. Duh.
Yep. Well, and also it's about making sure that I have my downtime, right? Like, so if I prioritize my list based on the things that need to be given the most attention first, then it allows me to get it done. Instead, I'm a Gemini, so like my brain is constantly coming up with, what about this, and how about that, and what about this idea, and so if I don't put it to paper, it will put me into complete and utter chaos, because then I'm like, I'm frozen. I can't do anything. And so I just stop. So it's really about having a tactile connection to the thoughts. And this is a lot of what I teach in the work that I do too, especially dealing with professional women that feel like they have to do it all, right? It's like, okay, but do you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if I don't apply that to my own self, then again, what business do I have telling it to someone else? So it's really about finding a way to be all of those pieces. Because again, as a Gemini, I have like 5 different things I want to do instead of just focusing on one. So even if you look at my business model, I have 3 legs, and it's always been that way. This, and this, and I want to give to each of them equally, but I have to do it in a way that it makes sense for my life.
Yeah.
And so having that organization, having that ability to get it out of my head and give it a 2D life, right? Where it's written down and I can see it. And so guiding others to do that through journaling. And I talk about that a lot. Like, journaling is not a Dear Diary thing. It's get this noise out of your head so that you can first of all step away and then come back and say, all right, what in this is emotional,
Yeah.
and what in this is the facts. And then you can pull out the facts, and then the emotion piece can be dealt with in its own time, but you have to get to what's underneath the emotion. And so if we really kind of reflect back on what happened for me last year, I had gotten to a point where I was only operating on the emotional reactions. And I wasn't able to get to a place of clarity. And I had always done that, but I think that experience of doing something that felt inauthentic, coupled with being 50 and having a hysterectomy and going into menopause, like,
Right.
it just blew. It put me in a place where my mind wasn't working, my body, and everything wasn't working. Like, I felt very disconnected from my intuition, and so again, taking that time to pause and reflect and realign and recenter and get clear, and like, there's so much value in that, and I can't begin to express the gratitude I have for the fact that I was willing to do it.
Yeah. And what a journey, right? And like you said, your mess has become your message and
Mm-hmm.
influenced how you show up and made changes in how you operate on a daily basis. And I think it's also beautiful.
Yeah.
What amazing testimonial you have of your own, implementing your own practices and
Mm-hmm.
learning to just honor yourself. I think that's so amazing.
Well, and I just have to say before we fully close up here, I have immense gratitude for you. Like, the space that I was in when I came into the containers that you had was by far exactly what my heart needed, was just a safe place to live.
And I'm so glad that I was able to create that and have you there in that moment of need. Yeah, the first day we met was I know a chaotic one for you. So I'm so
Mm-hmm.
glad that
Yeah,
the universe lined us up to be what each other needed. So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
grateful for that as
So
well.
I am grateful. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Amazing. Ramona, it has been a joy to have you on the podcast. Can you tell us what you're working on, what's coming up, where people
Mhm.
can connect with you?
Absolutely. So I have a beautiful 4-month program called Empowered Authenticity, and it is all about helping overwhelmed, stuck, burnt out women to reconnect to themselves, to reconnect to understanding their energy and how to use that energy, and how to recognize the signs that something is out of alignment and needs to be given attention. So that program is what was born out of this experience that I had. I also offer transformational destination retreats, and I'm having a retreat in Montana in
Ooh.
September. So it is actually going to fall over the fall equinox and a new moon weekend. So if you want more information about that, you can find all of this on my website. And I would say keep an eye out. I have some really cool things that are going to start popping up, and a beautiful signature workshop that I'm leading called Reclaim Your Energy and Alignment. And it's all about beginning to observe where your energy drains are happening and setting more appropriate boundaries around energy and moving yourself forward with intention.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, I love it. I think I can summarize kind of our conversation today with like, feel the feels, honor the energy, right? Like, trust your vibe checks and keep moving forward. So thank you so much for being here, Ramona. I will put all of her information in the show notes. Thanks for listening. You know the drill. Like, share, follow, subscribe, send this to your bestie, and of course, keep building your empire.